Hey guys, what's going on? Another informal video coming to you guys. This is my second video. So this video will cover zone of influence. You probably hear me talking about this on stream all the time. But zone of influence concept is very simple. It's the area somebody can impact. So as we can see here, Vayne's zone of influence is right here. This is her zone of influence. This is her auto attack range. It's the area that she can impact. Obviously, she can Q and change her zone of influence, right? It's pretty quick. Boom. Now it's over here, right? So, that's the definition. How can we use this in a real game? So, in a real game, let's say this is a Malphite, okay? This is one way you can use this. So, a Malphite ult range will probably be somewhere like this, right? This is the Malphite ult range, okay? So, in a real game, you don't want to enter that range. Let me click Y here. Let me unlock my camera. Beware. Oh shit. So, in a real game, oh shit, you don't want to enter this zone of influence. So, in a team fight or in a dance, you want to stay out of this range, right? Obviously, if you're going to enter the range, you must have a reason to enter the range, okay? So, if you're going to enter the range to do something, whether it's to maybe hit someone else over here, right? Let's say you want to hit someone, right? But you need to enter the range. What are you going to do when the Malphite pulls the trigger, right? Doesn't matter what champion you're playing, whether it's Vayne, whether it's Lee Sin, I don't care, okay? But you have to keep in mind, when you enter someone's range, they are probably going to use their abilities. So if you're going to enter someone's range, you better have a good reason. So in this case, if my reason is to hit this person over here, because we all CC'd them, I need to watch the Malphite, right? While I hit this person. If he pulls the trigger, I need to flash, or I need to Q. Right? So this is one way you can use this concept. You draw it out. And whenever it comes to real team fights, you need to draw out the most important things that can kill you. So right there, a Malphite ult range. A Nautilus hook range. Maybe a Sejuani ult. Maybe Sejuani Q and ult. It's where she flies towards you and then ult, right? Or Fizz Shark, right? You have to draw out the biggest things that can kill you and be careful of it. Okay? So that's one way you can use this concept in a real team fight. I'll cover it one more time again once we get into it, but yeah. And don't forget, while you might be drawing someone else's zone of influence, you have your own zone of influence. You yourself is a threat in some way, shape, or form. If you're playing Sylas and they have a Malphite and you steal Malphite ult, you guys essentially have the exact same range. And if anything, Sylas has his E. So we can have even more distance, right, to land the ability. So let's go further into it, okay? So let me draw multiple dummies here. So let's say you're posturing for a team fight, okay? You're playing ADC. You and your teammates are dancing around this dragon, right? You're dancing around the dragon, very common play. So let's say this is a Malphite, okay? If this is a Malphite, you need to draw his ult range, which is probably to around here. Okay? Somewhere around there. It probably circles up a bit further to land. Let's say right here, there's a Sejuani. You would have to draw her ultimate range like this. That's probably, I would say, her ultimate range. Obviously, it gets blocked by people, so it would be blocked if it got sent over here. Okay? Anything past that, it would go past, probably. Right here, right here. Maybe to the right of this guy, but I'm not going to draw it. So, and then right here, we have maybe, like, let's say, like a Lux or something, right? You have to draw her Q range, which is about probably here, right? And now, that is one thing that you can do, okay? Now, there are two other elements to this concept, okay? There is the time factor. So let's say, initially, it's Malphite ult, right? This Malphite ult would probably take 1 second, okay? To travel to its maximum distance. So if you enter this area, you have 1 second to dodge it. So you have 1 second to flash, or 1 second to Q out, or to Gale Force, whatever it is, right? Or even Zhonya's. Lux Q, right here, for example, is a lot slower. I would probably give it 1.5 seconds. So if you do enter this area roughly around here for Lux Q, you have 1.5 seconds from when she throws it over here to get you at max range, if you're playing at max range, right? And then Sejuani ult, which is probably, like, I would say also another 1 second, 1.2 seconds-ish, to travel to its end distance, right? And then obviously you calculate her Q. So there's the time factor to it, right? The time factor to how long it takes an ability to reach its end location. Assuming it goes that far, right? And now, there are 2 more factors you have to play into this. Flash range. As you can see here, Malphite can flash right here, so now it increases his range even further, right? So now you have to keep that in mind when you're moving forward as an ADC in this situation, right? So maybe I might want to play back here until the initial engage happens, right? But maybe I have flash, right? Then I can walk up and I can be ready to flash or to Q out of it, right? Side note specifically for Malphite, by the way, a funny thing that you can always do as Vayne in particular is you can actually tumble forward and you will dodge the Malphite ult probably. If it goes slightly past you. If it lands over here, you'll still get knocked up. But if it went over here, you would probably dodge it. So that's something that's very common to do against Zac. When he's charging up his E and you're running away from him, you run towards him and he'll fly past you. Same as Malphite. So that's just a quick little fun fact that you can maybe sometimes do. But yeah. And now, the last concept in Zone of Influence is hitbox. Hitbox, hitbox, hitbox. You see, if you watch Han Sama play League of Legends, he abuses the crap out of this concept. So, like, let's say against the Lux, right? Against the Lux, let's say you want to enter her range to do damage to her, okay? So let's say this is a Lux now. That is a Lux, okay? Her Q range is probably something like this. Something like that. Roughly like that. So let's say we want to enter her range, okay? Which is fine. We want to enter her range. So now, we need to calculate the distance it would take for her ability to reach me, aka how long, and now the hitbox of the actual ability itself, okay? So now when we enter her range, we want to watch for the hitbox. So let's say right here, the hitbox is like this, right? It's pretty bullshit hitbox sometimes, but yeah. So right there, that would be roughly the hitbox of Lux Q, right? If I calculate also the distance, now let's say I have 1.2 seconds to get out of this Lux Q, right? Because I entered a Q range. Obviously, you can simply outrange it, that's the first thing. But let's say you want to ego, right? You want to go in. Something you can do is maybe Q this way. If you think you can get past the Lux Q hitbox before it hits you, boom. And now you can fight the Lux, right? Or sometimes you can flash over it, right? Or flash to the right of it, flash to the left of it, whatever it is, right? But regardless of what you do, you have to keep these 3 things in mind. Number 1, again, it is the maximum range. Number 2, it is the distance traveled and how long it takes to reach wherever you're standing, right? And number 3, the actual hitbox itself. So, with all that being said, you can approach this fight in many different ways if you want to enter the range. Again, the first one is you can queue up, try to get past it before it hits you, right? You can flash over it when it goes past you, right? And then continue to fight. Or you can simply outrange it if you want to stay outside of its range, right? So those are the 3 ways you can use Zone of Influence, right? And now you want to mix it together with the first thing I taught you guys, which is the kiting and the orb walking, right? So when you're in a real team fight, okay? Let's say the team fight gets hectic. Some shit's going on, right? This is a concept. Now, this is a separate concept now completely. I'm going to go back to Zone of Influence and talk about it relative to bushes in a second. But since we're here, I want to talk about this. And this video is very informal, so it's whatever. So in a real team fight, I play Vayne a lot, right? There's a team fight happening, right? A bunch of people are fighting. It's whatever, okay? A concept that I like to apply to myself in a real team fight is I like to do something called isolating 1v1s. And I do this a lot in bot lane, especially when I did my 2 accounts at once challenge. Isolating 1v1s. So, sure, there's a team fight going on 5v5, whatever it is, right? But as Vayne, what you can do is you can isolate a 1v1. So right here, as you can see, let's say I want to attack this guy, right? And there's 3 over here. I want to attack this guy. You want to attack this guy from over here, right? Obviously, Zone of Influence plays into its effect, but you get the idea I'm trying to go for, right? As you can see, I'm trying to stay away from these guys as much as I can, right? So I have less things to worry about. Obviously, things can fly past and fights move really quickly, but you can still see the concept I'm trying to go for. I'm trying to isolate this one guy and 1v1 him, essentially. So it's easier to dodge whatever these three are trying to shoot at me if they really want to shoot it at me. And you're just holding this 1v1 on this guy. Instead, whereas some noobs might just go here. Right? Did you see that? Now these people can hit me a lot more easily. Right? Because I'm closer to them. But when I was over here, it's more of a struggle to reach to me. I'm not saying it's impossible for them to get you, right? It depends on the champion again. But as you can see, you are much further away from your opponents, and you have a lot more time to think, and you are putting yourself in a position where you can consistently hit one person, right? So the zone of influence concept comes a lot easier. As Vayne in particular, or even any other ADC, there's something that I like to call the blow-up play, okay? It's when you're holding your 1v1, then all of a sudden you see an angle to blow up, right? This is where you essentially just go into multiple people's zone of influence on purpose. Because, let's say the enemy ADC right here gets stunned, right? He gets stunned. You see, oh shit, there's a blow-up opportunity. You're 1v1ing this guy, you're like, oh shit, boom. Now you blow up, now you're inside everyone's zone of influence, right? So if you ever do this, be ready to dodge shit when it comes out, okay? It's very simple. Something that I like to do when I make a blow-up play is, I will go in for my blow-up play, right? Right when I show up, you flash. You will probably dodge a good amount of abilities doing that. So, remember, when you blow-up play, right when you come out, and they see you, they're probably going to use all their abilities in your area right here. Flash. And then you will dodge a lot of abilities and look really cool. Sometimes you'll get unlucky and their ability was on CD for 1 more second. Then you flash and then you hit by it. You look kind of stupid, but for the most part, right when you show up, people will probably try to use their biggest abilities on you. So keep that in mind if you ever do a blow-up plays in ADC. So yeah. Alright, that was my team fight spiel. Let's go back to the zone of influence concept, okay? Let's try to despawn these minions here. Let's see. Let's clear the target dummies. Toggle minion spawn. There you go. Okay. So, laning phase, a lot of people tell me, Saskia, I get poked the fuck out when I'm playing laning phase, okay? So, that is why bush control, which is another concept I'll cover in the future when it comes to supports in particular, because a lot of supports ask me how do I carry when I'm playing support. I'll cover that in a future video, but yeah. Okay, so, you get to lane, you're farming, right? There's a bunch of minions right here, okay? If your support doesn't control bush number 2, which is a very important concept, and he sits in here, that means the enemy support's sitting in this bush, okay? So, what you need to do is you need to draw the zone of influence of the enemy support. So if this is an enemy brand, okay, and you don't have this bush warded, you have to assume he's standing right here. You have to assume the worst position possible for you. I don't give a fuck if the brand is standing over there in reality, okay? You still need to assume he's standing here, as long as you don't have vision, okay? So with that being said, if he's standing here, now we draw brand's zone of influence, right? His auto attack range is probably something like that, okay? His W range is probably something like this. It's very ugly, but it's whatever. And then obviously it extends a bit further, so... This is probably brand's W range, okay? Now, oh shit. Oh shit. Let's put that there. Okay, let's just draw brand's W range, okay? 1 circle. And then it probably extends a bit further, so probably like this. Something like that, okay? That is brand's W range, okay? So now as an ADC, when you're farming, you probably want to sit... Let's try to... There you go. That seems more realistic. Okay, so when you're farming as ADC now, you probably want to sit somewhere around here while you're last hitting these minions, okay? Because you want these minions to be in your zone of influence. Okay? Probably a bit longer than that, but it's fine. So, essentially, you're putting yourself in a position where you can auto-attack the minions, but yeah, you're outside of brand W range. And then obviously you have to count for the enemy ADC too, right? Enemy ADC now, maybe he's playing over here. You have to account for his range, right? So then maybe now you have to play over here. So you have a small pocket that you can play through to last hit these minions, essentially, right? So you have to play around here and last hit these minions, right? So this is how you draw out the areas people can hurt you. Ideally, your support will fuck up this enemy support if they just ward the bush and fuck him up and then try to push him out. And then now your support controls the bush. But yeah, but that's an example of one thing you can cover, right? let's derail this topic a little bit and talk about isolating 1v1 situations. So in a bot lane, it's 2v2, right? Most people can agree with that. But a concept that I followed when I played 2 accounts at the same time is isolating 1v1 situations. So I have a Yuumi on top of me, okay? I have a Yuumi on top of me, and what I would do when I play Draven, right, is I know the enemy support would be in this bush. If I ever trade with the enemy ADC and I was standing right here, in range of the enemy support and ADC, I lose the trade. Because my Yuumi can't do anything when I'm playing 2 accounts at the same time, right? I can't detach it and then have it fight or have it Q, right? It was only a heal bot. So how would I win my situations with a person playing Yuumi with their feet? What I would do is I would move over here outside of the support range when the enemy ADC tried egoing me right here, and I would attack as Draven and move away from the enemy support. And essentially, the enemy support would now be like, oh fuck, I need to help my AD. So he starts coming out. Enemy AD starts running this way. But I kited this way. And then by the time the enemy support can even help him, I just leave and reset the situation. Enemy ADC would probably panic and run. Support would keep trying to chase me like an idiot. And now I would 1v1 the enemy support. And then now, essentially the entire time, the only person who hit me was the enemy AD twice when he was trying to run away. And now the enemy melee support is like, fuck, I didn't do anything the entire time. Now they're both chunked. The enemy AD probably lost 300 HP to my Draven Axes. The enemy support probably lost 200 HP to my Draven Axes. And all I got back was like 100 damage. Which I healed, by the way, on Yuumi. And then now, I have my gigantic lead. I can now suicide into them. Or I would still isolate the exact same concept once I reset the situation. I reset the situation, enemy AD here, enemy support here. Same concept. I would W forward, look for the enemy ADC here, leave before the enemy support can influence. That is called isolating the 1v1 situation as an ADC. So as you can see, boom here, move away, and then you can go back. Obviously, don't lose minions for doing this, but yeah. So that is one way you can play bot lane. Okay? Let's see. Is there anything else I need to cover in my zone of influence? Let's see. I think that's everything. Oh. Another thing. When you're face checking, this irks me a lot. This is a very common situation in a real game. Okay? Enemy is doing Baron. Okay? And you are face checking this brush. And it's like a Nautilus or something, right? When you face check this brush, you don't need to know if there's a Nautilus in that bush. You know there's a Nautilus in that bush. So what you should do instead is you should approach the bush. When you reach his hook range, which is roughly right here, be ready to juke. It irks me so much when people are face checking and they don't even bother trying to juke when they're in a situation where they have to, right? If you walk inside Nautilus hook range, he will hook you. So when you approach the bush, dodge it. Dodge it. Do some weird jukes, right? You don't have to see someone in a bush to know that they're there. If you just know that they're there, regardless of what position they are in the bush, if you can preemptively try to dodge, that's great. If you dodge their hooks, and then now I can walk up, because now they don't have no hook. And exact same concept applies to bot lane. You don't need to know if someone's there to draw out the zone of influence. You just draw out the worst position that they can be in for you, and then go from there. Okay? So that's like a blitzcrank hook or a thresh hook or something. Even if they're standing here, you still need to draw the hook range and then play around it, right? Like this. You need to play around it. Obviously, if you're behind minions, it doesn't matter. A minion would just block it. This is the max hook range now, if a minion blocks it. But yeah. So now this has covered zone of influence. Weave this in with the first thing I taught you guys of how to get better at mechanics, how to kite, how to chase, and this should help you when it comes to interacting with your opponents in a real game. Thank you very much, and have a good day.